This is me, July 29th, 2008. It is 12:33 Mountain Time. Covering all my bases, making sure that if something happens to me or my family or all of us, that our assets are documented. Hope everything works out and we're all happy and live happily ever after as much as that's possible.
June 28, 2008, Susan Cox Powell wrote a letter to her family and friends, warning them about Josh. In the letter, Susan stated that Josh had threatened to ruin her if she filed for divorce. She also mentioned that if she were to die, it might not be an accident, even if it appeared so. The letter was kept in Susan's safe deposit box, where only she had access. November 6, 2009, Susan Cox Powell was last seen by a neighbor at her home in West Valley City, Utah. From that point on, there was no trace of her, not even the slightest clue. In 2012, her husband and 2 sons were found dead in an apparent murder-suicide in their home. Susan, however, remained missing and has never been found. Today is December 10, 2024. My story today is about the disappearance of Susan Powell and the strange, suspicious actions of her husband, Joshua Powell. This story is truly complex. Both you and I will need to stay focused and attentive to fully understand it. Its appearance is clear. The evidence pointing to Josh and his connection to her vanishing is also evident. Yet, none of it led to any definitive conclusion. Josh seemed to remain uninvolved, at least officially. As for Susan, whether she's alive or dead remains unknown. Cox Powell was born on October 16, 1981, in Alamogordo, New Mexico, USA. Her parents are Chuck and Judy Cox. She was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In 2001, she met and married Joshua Powell. The couple had 2 sons, Charles and Brad. On December 6, 2009, Susan suddenly disappeared without a trace. It is widely believed that she was murdered by her husband, Joshua Powell, though this has never been conclusively proven. Powell was born on January 20, 1976, to Stephen and Terica Powell in Puyallup, Washington. He had 2 sisters and 2 brothers. The Powell family was severely dysfunctional, largely due to Stephen's abusive behavior and his dissatisfaction with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. According to Terica's 1992 divorce records, Stephen shared pornography with his sons and refused to enforce all model-appropriate boundaries in behavior. As a teenager, Josh was accused of killing one of his sister's pet gerbils and threatening his mother with a meat cleaver. He also attempted suicide at least once. In the 1990s, Joshua attended the University of Washington, where he met and lived with Catherine Terry Everett. However, Catherine eventually left him, citing his increasingly controlling behavior. She moved to Utah and broke up with him over the phone. Later met Susan Cox, a classmate in an LDS Church Institute of Religion course in 2000. The two began dating and were married in the Portland, Oregon temple in April 2001. Josh earned a bachelor's degree in business and worked for various companies over the years. A trained cosmetologist, worked at Wells Fargo Investments after the family relocated to West Valley City, Utah, a suburb of Salt Lake City. The Powells had 2 sons, Charles, born on January 19, 2005, and Braden, born on January 2, 2007. Later, the family moved in with Josh's father, Stephen, in South Hill, Washington. Stephen, Josh's father, was nothing short of a nightmare for Susan. Stephen developed an obsessive infatuation with her, following her around the house with a video camera, using a small mirror to spy on her in the bathroom, stealing her underwear from the laundry, reading her journals, and posting love songs online under a pseudonym. "I can barely control myself around her," he wrote. "What has driven me this past year has been mostly lust. I have never lusted after a woman as I do after Susan. I sometimes risk capturing videos of her, and I watch them frequently. I want so badly to kiss those lips." Stephen documented in his notebooks. Stephen questioned whether the 31-year age gap between him and Susan was an issue. He included articles about relationships with significant age differences. Stephen even took steps hinting at a future with Susan, despite her being married to his son. He wrote about his plan to sell the house after learning Susan found it too dark. "If one day Susan agreed to marry me, I can buy another house," he explained. He deluded himself into believing, "I still think she loves me and is sexually attracted to me." He even allegedly suggested that he and his son, Josh, could share Susan. A horrifying notion.
She is so beautiful. Can't even get enough of her. Can't get enough of looking at her. She's so pretty. It was probably the most erotic experience I've had in my entire life. I hate to say it. I mean, of course, hasn't even had that many experiences, but Susan has been feeling ill. She had a cold, and I offered to rub her feet, to rub her toes, to give her some stimulation. That went on. I probably rubbed her feet, her toes, her beautiful feet. She has such pretty feet. Of course, everything about her is pretty beautiful. And I know she felt it. She couldn't have missed it. She's not naive either. I know from what I've read in her journals. That girl is not naive. When I started massaging her legs, I would have loved to go all the way up her legs, but I did do her calves because her feet were resting in my crotch, so I sort of rubbed her calves. She didn't seem to mind at all having me that close. I mean, I was close. I was touching her with my crotch.
Give her a foot massage when she had a cold, massaging her toes to stimulate her a bit. I know she felt it. Yes, I know she noticed it. I know that from reading her journal. She's not the type to ignore something like this. Stephen wrote, convincing himself that Susan reciprocated his feelings. 3. Stephen confessed his feelings to Susan. As any normal person would, Susan was appalled by her father-in-law's advances. She couldn't accept it, nor could anyone else. It was outrageous and absurd. On one occasion, Stephen even attempted to kiss her. Susan decided to move out to avoid enduring such situations ever again. After the family left, Stephen sent Susan a package containing photos of naked men. Journal entries and emails revealed increasing marital discord. She noted tension with Josh over his refusal to attend church services with the family, and his continued communication with Stephen, even though his father's behavior toward her persisted. Susan's friends pointed out Josh's extremely controlling nature and his extravagant spending habits. In 2007, Josh filed for bankruptcy, declaring over $200,000 in debt. 2008, Susan recorded a video documenting property damage she attributed to Josh and wrote a secret will. In it, she stated, "I wanted on record that there is extreme turmoil in our marriage and, chillingly, if I die, it may not be an accident, even if it looks like one." Of December 6, 2009, Susan, along with her sons Charles and Braden, attended church services. That afternoon, a neighbor visited their home and left around 5 p.m. This was the last time anyone outside the Powell family saw Susan alive. By December 7, 2009, Susan was reported missing after her family and friends grew worried when she failed to show up for work at Wells Fargo. Initially, Josh and the two boys were also considered missing since the children hadn't been dropped off at daycare and Josh hadn't shown up for work. Unable to contact either Josh or Susan, alarmed, officers broke into the Powell home fearing a carbon monoxide poisoning incident. However, they found no one inside. Instead, they noticed two box fans blowing onto a wet spot on the couch. Susan's wallet, purse, and identification were found in the house, while her cell phone was later discovered inside the family's Chrysler Town and Country minivan. The same vehicle Josh had taken with him, as though the entire family had vanished. However, later that afternoon, Josh arrived at the police station with his two sons. When questioned, Josh claimed he had left Susan at home, asleep shortly after midnight, on December 7, and had taken the boys camping at Pony Express Trail in western Utah. 10. Police searched the area Josh described, but found no evidence of the campsite. They also grew suspicious of Josh's story, as it seemed odd that he would take his young sons camping after midnight during a snowstorm, especially with daycare scheduled just a few hours later. Suspicion, Josh hadn't informed his employer that he wouldn't be coming to work that day. When questioned, he explained to the police that he had mistakenly thought it was Sunday, not Monday. These irregularities in Josh's behavior and statements only deepened concerns surrounding Susan's disappearance. Following a second police interview on the evening of December 8, Josh rented a silver Ford Focus from Salt Lake City International Airport. His whereabouts after leaving the airport remain unknown. When investigators searched the Powell home on December 9, they discovered several alarming items: traces of Susan's blood on the floor, her $1.5 million life insurance policies, and a handwritten letter in which Susan expressed fear for her life. DNA tests, released in 2013, confirmed that one blood sample matched Susan, while another came from an unidentified male. 2012, documents released by West Valley City Police revealed that Josh engaged in highly suspicious behavior following Susan's disappearance. He liquidated her retirement accounts, cancelled her regularly scheduled chiropractic appointments, and withdrew their children from daycare. Even before her disappearance, Josh had reportedly spoken with co-workers about how to hide a body in an abandoned mine in the western Utah desert. Interviewed Josh and Susan's eldest son, Charlie. He confirmed that the camping trip described by Josh had taken place. However, contrary to his father's account, Charlie stated that Susan had accompanied them on the trip, but did not return home.
Stayed at the park? Where did she stay at the park? Do you know where?
She stayed at Dinosaur National Park.
You know where at the park? No?
No. My mom stayed where a Christmas park.
After Susan's disappearance, a teacher reported that Charlie had stated, "My mum is dead." "My mum is dead," Chuck and Judy Cox claimed that months later, at daycare, Braden drew a picture of a car with 3 people inside and told caregivers, "Mummy is in the trunk." Settling revelations deepened the mystery surrounding Susan's disappearance and cast further suspicion on Josh's actions and explanations. Evidence. The story seems quite clear. Josh likely killed his wife, possibly with the help of at least one family member, and disposed of her body, perhaps in an abandoned mine. So why wasn't Josh arrested? It seemed obvious that he was responsible. The big question remained, what happened to Josh, and why was he still free? Informed the media of plans to interrogate Josh again and subpoena all aired and unaired footage of Josh's interviews with local TV stations. On December 14, Josh hired an attorney in connection with the investigation, and police announced that he was becoming increasingly uncooperative. Later, Josh took his sons to Puyallup, Washington to stay with his father, Stephen, for the holidays. By December 24th, Josh was officially considered a person of interest in the case. On January 6, 2010, Josh returned to Utah with his brother Michael to pack up the family's belongings, signaling his intent to move permanently to Puyallup.
And you're going to have to wait here with us. You're not going to go anywhere. One of our detectives just interviewed your children. And your children are telling our detectives that Mom went with you guys last night. And that she didn't come back.
She did not go with us.
Okay. Well, with that, just getting that information, you're not going to go anywhere. I'm not going to let you leave. I'm going to detain you. You sit right here. If you want a lawyer and you want to talk, or you want to change your mind and talk, or take a CBSA test, then we can do those things. But
Yeah, with that in mind.
They know that she didn't go with us.
Well, here's the thing. Kids are very honest. That's one thing I've learned in the years of doing this job. That when kids talk to us, we'll listen because they're honest. And they never lie. They don't make things up. So if they're saying they were with you, they were with you. Okay? I mean, she was with you. So I have to believe the kids. So now it's going to be up to you if you want to help us find her and help us get to the bottom of what really happened here. That's what we're here for, okay? We're going to find out either way, with your help or without your help. I honestly don't need your help. I feel confident enough in my investigation and his investigation and everybody else involved. We have great detectives in this department that will find out what happened. We'll get to the bottom of this with your help or without your help. So I want to give you the opportunity to help us and tell us what really happened. Because you're the only one that knows.
Nothing that happened. She was not with us. And if my kids said that...
So your kids lie then? Your kids lie?
Sometimes they do. I mean, if they said that she was with us, they know that's not true.
So if they
And if they said that she was with us, then I guess that would put her out at Pony Express.
Okay, and that's my concern.
Began living with his two sons at his father Stephen's home, alongside his siblings Michael, Jonathan, and Alina. The Powell family used the website susanpowell.org to proclaim Josh's innocence and spread conspiracy theories about what really happened to Susan. Even accused Susan of running away with another man. All posts on the site were made anonymously, but Josh wrote that the allegations against him and his family were a result of their outspoken criticism of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, LDS Church. End of poem. Powell also supported the theory that Susan had run off with Stephen Coker, another man who disappeared in the same area around the same time. However, Coker's case was entirely unrelated, despite the coincidental timing and location of his disappearance. Family's attempts to shift the narrative and cast doubt on the investigation only fueled more public suspicion. But without sufficient evidence for an arrest, Josh remained free, at least for the time being. Even Powell had a different perspective. They speculated that because both Susan and Stephen Coker were of similar age, shared the same religious practices, and lived in the same city, they might have fled to Brazil together to start new lives. Both the Cox and Kocher families vehemently denied these claims. The Powell family appeared determined to frame Susan as someone who abandoned her family, placing all blame squarely on her. Josh's brother Michael also became a subject of investigation. Police discovered that 2 weeks after Susan's disappearance, Michael paid to have his broken-down car towed to a salvage yard. The vehicle was found in Oregon, where forensic tests were conducted. Dogs detected traces of human decomposition in the trunk of the car, but DNA testing yielded inconclusive results. Michael never provided a credible explanation for abandoning the car, further deepening suspicions about his involvement. September 14, 2011, Utah authorities uncovered a potential burial site while searching Topaz Mountain, a desert area near Nephi, Utah, where Josh frequently camped. Investigators noted signs of recently disturbed soil and digging. However, after digging several feet and meticulously sifting through the soil, no human remains were found. 2011, Josh underwent court-ordered evaluations in Washington. Conducted by psychologist James Manley, the assessments concluded that Josh possessed adequate parenting skills, had a stable work history, and no criminal record or documented history of domestic violence. However, Manley raised serious concerns about the ongoing criminal investigations, Josh's inability to acknowledge typical personal shortcomings, his controlling behavior toward his sons, and his persistent, defensive, and paranoid demeanor. Recommendation allowed Josh to visit his sons multiple times a week under the supervision of a social worker. Week of January 2012, West Valley City Police discovered approximately 400 disturbing images on a computer seized from the Powell family home. These included simulated child pornography, bestiality, and incest. Saved in cached files when the previous owner of the computer, Susan, bought it second-hand. Utah authorities alleged that Josh had viewed these images. Images were not illegal, as they were either hand-drawn or in animated format. They caused significant alarm. Manley noted these findings raised serious concerns about Josh's fitness as a parent and his underlying psychological state. The investigation expanded to include Josh's father, Stephen Powell, after a family friend revealed his obsession with Susan. Incriminating evidence came to light when investigators seized Stephen's computer in 2010, uncovering 4,500 photographs of Susan taken without her knowledge. These included close-up images of specific body parts. In June 2012, Stephen was convicted on 14 counts of voyeurism and sentenced to prison. 2012, tragedy struck during a supervised visit at Josh's home in South Hill. Social worker Elizabeth Griffin Hall called 911 after Josh forcibly took his sons, Charlie and Braden, into the house and locked her out. Moments later, the house exploded in a massive blast that killed Josh and his 2 boys. Determined the incident to be a deliberate double murder-suicide. The explosion was so powerful that it shook nearby homes, and debris from the house, including insulation, was scattered across the neighborhood. The cause of death for Josh and his sons was carbon monoxide poisoning. However, the autopsy revealed that both boys had suffered severe injuries to their heads and necks caused by an axe. A hatchet was found near Josh's body, leading investigators to believe he attacked the boys before succumbing to the toxic fumes. Investigation uncovered 2 5-gallon gasoline cans on the property, and evidence suggested gasoline had been poured throughout the house to accelerate the blaze. Family reported that Josh had sent farewell emails to them just minutes before the explosion. A day earlier, Josh had withdrawn $7,000 from his bank account and donated his son's toys and books to local charities. These actions, along with the horrific events, painted a picture of a calculated and premeditated plan. It informed Stephen, who was incarcerated at the time, about the deaths of his son and grandsons. He reportedly displayed little grief. Instead, he expressed anger at the authorities for informing him. 2 weeks later, Stephen invoked his Fifth Amendment rights and refused to answer questions about Susan's disappearance. Susan's father and others believed that Stephen knew what had happened to Susan. Despite the allegations, Stephen's voyeurism trial largely avoided delving into Susan's case. The Cox family and others criticized this as a missed opportunity to uncover the truth about her disappearance. February 11th, 2013, roughly a year after the tragic deaths of Josh Powell and his sons Michael Powell, Josh's brother took his own life by jumping from a parking garage in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Michael, who was 30 at the time, had been questioned by police multiple times in 2012 after his abandoned Ford vehicle was found at an Oregon scrapyard. Investigators described his behavior during questioning as evasive, particularly regarding why he had left the car at that location. Utah later stated that they believed Josh and Michael had conspired to dispose of Susan's body together. The active investigation by West Valley City Police into Susan's disappearance officially ended on May 21, 2013. Despite extensive efforts, police found no evidence directly linking Stephen Powell, Josh's father, to Susan's disappearance. Key individuals involved now deceased, Susan's case remains an unsolved mystery. Police suspect her body might be hidden in one of Utah's numerous abandoned mines. But without new evidence, the case has been closed. Sister Alina Powell continues to defend her family, asserting on an Oxygen special that the investigation unfairly tore her family apart. Meanwhile, Susan's father, Chuck Cox, remains deeply critical of law enforcement, believing they missed critical opportunities to arrest Josh and question him more thoroughly. "I hope Stephen left some note about where Susan might be," Chuck said after Stephen's death. "It's heartbreaking that their family has fallen apart, and now he's gone too." His belief that Susan is likely no longer alive, Chuck Cox has not given up searching for her. He shared with the Los Angeles Times in 2013 that while his family wanted him to find peace, he could not abandon his mission to find his daughter. "I told my daughters that I love them, but I have to find Susan. I can't give up on her," he said. He also recalled the moment police admitted he was right, that they should have arrested Josh earlier. "I sat there thinking, I don't want to be right. I just want my daughter back. I don't want her to be dead and her husband to be the one responsible." The story of Josh, Susan, and their children is undeniably heartbreaking. Susan's disappearance, the murder of her sons, and Josh's actions paint a devastating picture of a family destroyed by tragedy. Many speculate that Josh's ultimate decision to end his life and those of his children stemmed from an inability to face the consequences of his actions and a misguided belief that he was reuniting his family in death. Of the motivations, this remains a profoundly sorrowful story. It is now 2024, and that girl would have been 47 years old if she were still alive. We say if because, to this day, her whereabouts remain a mystery. At the age of 8, she vanished completely from the world, as if she had evaporated into thin air, she left no trace behind. Turning back 39 years to the morning of Tuesday, July 30, 1985, 8-year-old Nicole Louise Morin asked her mother for permission to go swimming with a friend at the apartment complex pool. She left her home and never returned. Dozens of police officers, search dogs, helicopters, and every available resource were mobilized in the search. What's noteworthy is that Nicole's disappearance was part of a series of missing girl cases that same year. However, unlike the others, whose bodies were eventually discovered, Nicole was never found, and no leads have surfaced since.
22 Division, I'm the Inspector 22 Division, and then just searching for any evidence whatsoever that may lead to tell us that Nicole Morin was in here or not in here. And information again, trying to spark a public interest in her missing persons case, to try and generate more tips and more information. We received information from the same family, and as a result of that information, we contacted the OPP up here, their jurisdiction, and had conversations with them with regards to coming in here to conduct a more thorough ground search, using a little more technology, using cadaver dogs, using GPS. The OPP assigned 10 of their experienced ERT officers that are search managers to assist us. We brought 28 of our officers that are up here on a search manager's course in the city of Toronto, and we're conducting a thorough ground search on both sides of this concession and past the hydro cut.
Nicole Morin was born on April 1, 1977. Her parents were Arthur Art Morin and Jeanette Morin. She was a miracle child for her parents, who had been married for 12 years before her birth. Nicole had brown hair and brown eyes. At the time of her disappearance, she lived with her mother in a penthouse apartment on the 20th floor in the Eto'o district of Toronto. Her father lived in Mississauga. Although Nicole's parents were separated but not yet divorced, they no longer lived together. Nicole was on summer break from Wellsworth Public School, where she was in 3rd grade. Jeanette operated a home daycare service, while Nicole's father, Art, worked as a truck driver. Nicole was a kind and loving little girl. Her mother had taught her not to talk to strangers, a common piece of advice for young girls at the time. However, that didn't mean Nicole was shy. On the contrary, she was friendly and cheerful, attending dance classes and enjoying trips to McDonald's, fairs, and all the joys life had to offer. On the morning of July 30, 1985, around 10:30 a.m., Nicole went down to the lobby of 627 Melise at the West Mall to collect the mail. She then returned to her apartment to get ready for her planned swimming outing with her friend Jennifer. The pool was located behind their apartment complex. Before leaving, Nicole called Jennifer to confirm their meeting in the lobby in a few minutes. Nicole left her apartment around 11 a.m., wearing a peach-colored one-piece swimsuit, a green hair tie, and red canvas shoes. She carried a plastic bag containing a white t-shirt, green and white shorts, sunscreen, a hairbrush, a peach-colored blanket, and a purple beach towel. You might wonder why an 8-year-old girl was allowed to go out alone, but back in the 1980s, this was completely normal. Perhaps there weren't as many high-profile cases involving children at the time, leading people to feel more at ease. Vadermert a Chayengonsilhi. When Nicole didn't arrive 15 minutes after their agreed meeting time, Jennifer called Nicole's apartment. Jeanette, who was busy looking after the children in her daycare, answered the phone and said that Nicole had likely gone to the pool on her own or with other children from the complex. It wasn't until 3 p.m. that Jeanette realized her daughter's absence was unusual. Panicked, she began searching for Nicole around the apartment complex, including the pool and playground. However, no one had seen Nicole. At this point, Jeanette was terrified and contacted the police.
911, what is the address of your emergency?
According to reports, the police responded quickly to the call and immediately launched an investigation, including an intensive search of the apartment complex. This prompt action stands out, as in many cases, police would wait a day or two before starting a search. In Nicole's case, the police initiated a large-scale search operation right away, involving mounted patrols, marine units, foot patrols, and helicopters. The investigation extended to nearby roads and moving vehicles. Police also utilized vehicles equipped with public address systems to raise awareness and gather additional information. Despite extensive efforts, no trace of Nicole was found. Police knocked on the doors of all 429 apartments in the complex and entered units if access was granted. The only lead the police gathered was from a woman on the 7th floor who claimed to have seen Nicole but couldn't recall the exact location. She mentioned spotting a girl dressed like Nicole that morning, though details were unclear. Some speculated it was in the hallway, while others thought it might have been in the elevator. Although vague, Sergeant John Luby, who led the investigation, stated that this woman was the last known person to have seen Nicole. The newly established organization Crime Stoppers offered a $1,000 reward, printed flyers, and even recreated Nicole's disappearance for a televised broadcast a week later. You might wonder why the investigators didn't check security cameras. Unfortunately, there were no cameras installed in the building at the time. The building's management had planned to install cameras the day after Nicole's disappearance was reported. The following day, additional officers from the Toronto Police Service joined the search effort. A coordinated team, including mounted police, a marine unit, helicopters, and foot patrols, began scouring the area near Highway 27, close to the apartment complex. Sniffer dogs were brought in to search underground garages, utility rooms, storage areas, and the building's water pump room. Every corner of the 429-unit building was meticulously inspected. A neighbor recalled seeing an unidentified blonde woman with a notebook on the floor where Nicole's apartment was located, approximately 45 minutes before Nicole disappeared. Police sought her as a potential witness, but she was never identified, and no one came forward claiming to be her. Over 900 residents from the neighborhood participated in the search effort. This became the largest missing person investigation in the history of the Toronto Police Service. The department established a 20-member task force dedicated to the case, working for 9 months and logging 2,5,000 hours to follow up on leads. By November, police had interviewed approximately 6,000 individuals, including hundreds of known sex offenders. Theories such as kidnapping for ransom, child exploitation, or domestic violence were all explored as potential motives in the investigation. Why did Nicole's case garner so much attention? During the mid-1980s, the rate of child abuse and disappearances had spiked alarmingly. Law enforcement was determined to prevent another child from falling victim to such tragedies. When police searched Nicole's home and examined the belongings she left behind, one detail caught their attention. In her diary, Nicole had written, "I will disappear." However, investigators didn't draw any significant connections to the case. After all, children her age often write down random thoughts that they forget about the very next day. Following Nicole's abduction, Art moved back in with Jeanette, but their relationship didn't survive. The couple permanently parted ways in the late 1990s. Despite the passing years, Nicole's case remained unsolved. Art left his career behind and established an office dedicated to following leads about Nicole's whereabouts across Canada and the United States. Meanwhile, Jeanette consulted a psychic in Calgary in a desperate attempt to find her daughter. In 2007, Jeanette tragically passed away from a heart attack without ever learning what had happened to Nicole. Her death deeply saddened those who had followed Nicole's case over the years. The one thing Jeanette had longed for before her passing was to know where her daughter was. Over time, various theories emerged regarding Nicole's disappearance. Some speculated that the police might not have truly searched every single apartment in the complex. Others suggested that while officers were inspecting one unit, the perpetrator could have moved Nicole out through another apartment. In 2014, Art shared his feelings and revealed new details about the case. He said, "Maybe one day I'll hear a knock at the door. Maybe she'll walk in and say, 'These are your grandchildren.' That would be amazing. It's entirely possible." Art's hope was inspired by a miraculous reunion that Jeanette had experienced years earlier with her son from a previous marriage. Her ex-husband had moved to California with their son when he was very young. 15 years later, her son unexpectedly showed up and said, "Hi, Mum." Art held on to the dream that Nicole might one day return and said, "Hi, Dad." Knowing he had done everything possible as a father, Art continued to hope that his beloved daughter would be found, even after all these years. He still lives in the Etobicoke area, not far from where Nicole vanished. Art has said he remains nearby so that if Nicole ever returns, she will know where to find him. In 2020, a shocking piece of information surfaced, leaving investigators who had been following the case for years stunned. A woman reported that she had seen Nicole in a nearby park with a man on the day of her disappearance. Naturally, investigators questioned why she had waited so long to come forward. The woman explained that at the time she was only 12 years old and too frightened to speak up. Because the man had previously abused her, however, this revelation failed to provide any clear answers or lead to a definitive conclusion about Nicole's fate. In 2004, researchers from a Belgian organization announced a startling discovery. They had conducted biometric analysis comparing photos of Nicole found on a Canadian police website with images from a Dutch website advocating for children who had suffered sexual abuse. The researchers claimed there was a striking resemblance between Nicole and a child in the notorious Zandvoort pedophile network. However, despite years of investigations and thousands of leads, no physical evidence was ever uncovered to resolve Nicole's disappearance. Art once speculated that the person responsible for Nicole's disappearance might have been someone from the church he attended. At the time, Art and Jeanette were living apart, and the church disapproved of their separation. He considered the possibility that someone in the congregation, unwilling to see an innocent child caught in the middle of such a conflict, might have taken it upon themselves to remove Nicole from the situation. Art also suggested that financial pressures could have played a role in the case. He admitted that he bore the full financial burden after the divorce and was left with nothing. He theorized that someone within the church, aware of their legal disputes, might have believed taking Nicole would shield her from the difficulties her parents were facing. While both the theory of someone from the church and the possibility of a resident in the apartment complex abducting Nicole were considered, police investigations into individuals from the church and the surrounding neighborhood yielded no results. These lines of inquiry, like many others, ultimately led to dead ends. The possibility that Nicole was abducted by a stranger was considered unlikely though not impossible. Nicole was an intelligent and independent child, making it hard to imagine her being easily lured away. In fact, Jeanette recalled that just days before Nicole disappeared, the two had watched a show about missing people and how they had no contact with their families. During that time, Jeanette had taught Nicole how to respond if approached by a stranger. Had the stranger used force to abduct Nicole, someone would likely have heard her screams. It seems more likely that Nicole was taken by someone she knew and who had been observing her. This person was familiar with the layout of the building and had likely planned the abduction carefully. Being someone she knew, they would have known when Jeanette was busy with other children and unable to watch Nicole closely, making it possible for Nicole to vanish within just a few minutes without leaving any trace. Everything happened in complete silence. While the case remains unsolved, Toronto police and missing children organisations continue to bring the case to the public in the hopes of gathering new leads. Several reenactment videos of Nicole's last known actions have been released, including one aired in 2007 on the GTA's Most Wanted program. On the 29th anniversary of her disappearance in 2014, Toronto police produced another video reenactment, which was broadcast at Massacre Studios off Pixie Lane in Monster Churches. While it was observed in 1999, on the 30th anniversary of her disappearance in 2015, Toronto police organised a 5K run named Nicole's Run at Centennial Park in Etobicoke. The event included a candlelight prayer vigil. In addition to raising awareness about the case, the run raised $3,000 for the Canadian Child Protection Centre, which operates a website dedicated to missing children. In 2019, on the 34th anniversary of her disappearance, Toronto Police's Missing Persons Unit released an age-grossed photo of Nicole, imagining what she might look like in her early 40s. Nicole has never been forgotten. After all these years, the $100,000 reward for her safe return still stands. As of 2024, the disappearance of Nicole Morin remains a mystery, becoming one of the largest missing person investigations in Toronto police history. Nicole's family continues to wait for any news of her, whether she is alive or not. One thing they still hold on to is the hope that Nicole is living somewhere in the world. Anywhere. Arthur Art Morin still hopes that one day his daughter will come back. Currently, many believe that the police have not revisited the lives of all those who once lived in the complex back then. If they were truly connected to Nicole, surely something would have been uncovered by now. Any suggestions or analyses from you could serve as a potential lead for the investigation. Rest assured, the police are still actively working on Nicole's case and will continue their efforts if any new information surfaces. Anyone with information regarding the disappearance of Nicole Morin is urged to contact the Homicide Investigation Unit at